Welcome, everyone, to Coffee with a Codex. My name is Dot Porter, and I am a curator in the Schoenberg Institute for Manuscript Studies in the Kislak Center for Special Collections, Rare Books, and Manuscripts at the University of Pennsylvania Libraries. The Schoenberg Institute, or SIMS, is a research and development institute focused on manuscripts. We do a lot of digital projects. We digitize all our manuscripts. In fact, if you follow the record links, I believe all 3 manuscripts we're looking at today have been digitized. But that we also have a physical collection. And so once a week on Thursday at noon, I like to take a book off the shelf and just do a really informal 30-minute show and tell, just so you can get a better sense of what these books look like when people are handling them versus looking at the digital images. So that's sort of the focus of this event. I am not an expert on the history of medicine. I don't read Arabic, but I love books. And so this is a great opportunity for me to show you actually 3, I hope we can get to all 3 copies of this really important and incredible collection of texts. I say collection of texts, it's actually one text. So what this is our earliest copy of the Canon of Medicine, which was written by Ibn Sina, who in the West we call him Avicenna, in the year 1025. So he wrote it in Arabic. He was Persian, he wrote it in Arabic. He compiled, sort of brought together a lot of different traditions into this text. It is, I'm looking at the Wikipedia, because again, I'm not an expert, but so I'm going from this. It brought together influences from Greco-Roman medicine, particularly Galen, Persian medicine, Chinese medicine, Indian medicine, sort of compiling everything in the that was sort of the known medical knowledge of the Islamic world at his time. It is described as an encyclopedia of medicine. It contains 5 books. The first book is Essays on Basic Medical and Physiological Principles, Anatomy, Regimen, and General Therapeutic Procedures. The second book is a list of medical substances, arranged alphabetically, so just a list, following an essay on their properties. And then third, diagnosis and treatment of diseases specific to one part of a body. Fourth book, diagnosis and treatment of conditions covering multiple body parts or the entire body. And then the 5th chapter is a formulary of compound remedies, so combining things together to make medicines. So everything that he knew, he put into this book. It was incredibly popular. It was translated into Latin in the 12th century, and then it was copied and copied and copied, and it was hugely influential in Europe. I've seen through 1650, and I've seen into the 18th century. So this was a text that got around, and just in our collection, which is not, we do have a focused collection on the history of science, but it's not a huge collection, and we have several copies in several languages. We have 3 or 4 copies in Arabic. We have copies in Hebrew. We have copies in Latin. And when I say copies, I don't mean complete copies necessarily. A lot of these are partial copies. So you have the separate books being translated and passed along in different ways, not necessarily all 5 books together. So this first copy, I said this is our earliest copy, and I haven't really touched it yet, and there's a reason for that, which I'll go into in a minute. So this is LJS 446. This was copied in, I want to make sure I get the date right, somewhere between 1100 and 1150. And remember, I said that this book was written in, I think I said 1025. So this is, a little over 100 years, 150 years after the text was written, which is that's pretty early. That's pretty impressive timing. It is written on paper. It was copied in Spain, and we judge that from the style of the text, of the script. It's a Maghribi script, which is frequently, I think, in sort of northern Africa, going up into Spain. There are also apparently a few marginal transliterations written in 13th century Spanish Sephardi cursive script, which would be Hebrew. So there's a little bit of Hebrew in here. It is, as you can guess, probably just from looking at it, pretty fragile. It doesn't have a binding, which means that we can see the way the structure fits together, which is kind of interesting. But it also means that it's at risk of falling apart, which is why I haven't been turning the pages as I've been talking, which I would normally do. I will turn a little bit so you can see the condition of the paper. This is good paper, but it's been through a lot, so it's really delicate, particularly on the edges. Like there's a little piece here that's getting ready to come apart. So there's that, and it's not really coming together. It's very soft. It's really nice, actually, paper. There is some, you can see here, some bookworms have come in and are chewing away. There. I think that's about as far as I'm comfortable. Well, maybe I'll do one more page. I'll see if I can find another heading, so we can get a sense of how the text is put together. We do have these headings. They're sort of, it looks like dark purple. I don't know if it would have been a different color when it was written and it's faded. Maybe it was black and it's faded. But we have the purple headings, and then the main text is written in a sort of dark brown ink. Here's a little marginal note written against the text. Let's see, one more. Oh. And this is why I like doing these videos, because this is what you can't see. If you look at the digital images, I don't think you get quite the sense of how fragile it is. It looks like there are also words in the text that are being set apart in a sort of dark purple ink here and here. If anyone in the audience knows more about what exactly is happening in that, we can see. But otherwise, you know, that's a kind of thing that you see a lot in all kinds of manuscripts, right? There. And I should say that I said that the text was copied sometimes in sections. In fact, this manuscript is sections from Book I. So it's not, this one itself is not all 5 books. This is Book I, which is as sort of the essays on basic medical things. So there we go, a little more of the inside. But I think that's my limit. So I will put this back together. Actually, I won't. I'm just going to push it out of the way, and I'll think about that in a minute. All right. But I have 2 more copies that we can look at. One is another later Arabic copy. And this is LJS 427. And let me just double check. Let's see. All right, 427. And this is books 2 through 5. So it kind of, if you want to think about it that way, it kind of completes LJS 446. So we had Book 1, sections from Book 1, and now we have sections. Now we have 2 through 5. So there we go. And this is oversize. So this sits in our oversize shelves because it's tall and big. Let's see, maybe I can. Here we go. All right, so Matilda asks, how is the cover decoration made? All right, so this is a typical, pretty typical Islamic binding. Let me just check what it says here, because this is obviously not a medieval binding. This is a later binding, possibly 19th century Indian leather. So the decoration in this case it's made with, so it's leather and there's been a stamp that's been pressed into the leather. And then there's some kind of, it looks like paper that's been inlaid. So I don't know if the paper was also stamped or if it was stamped and then glued in, but the paper also has the same or a similar kind of inlay on it, and it's sort of come up here. Often on these kinds of bindings, you'll see painting, like gold paint that's been painted inside. So the paper is a little bit different, but that's what this is. It's paper that's been sort of glued on, and I think there's probably the same. Yeah, there's the same on the back, and that's been also later. So this has been rebound. This is. Sorry, I'm just looking for the date. So this is 1581. So this is a 16th century copy, like, 400 years after the other one. And this is produced in Persia with a question mark, so we think this is in Persia. So this is a little different in a lot of ways. So one thing that's sort of immediately, you can immediately see is that there's been sort of conservation work done on it. There's paper that's been glued around the edges of the pages. The kind of damage that we saw in the previous one, I think this is sort of an attempt to keep that kind of thing from happening. Although it looks like it might have been trimmed and then put in the frames. And then these frames are what are bound together. So the pages themselves have been all separated, and then these frames have been put in. The writing is smaller, although the pages are bigger, and the script is different. This is a Naskh script, which is a very common Arabic script that sort of you see sort of everywhere in the Middle East. Again, we have words that are set apart using red ink, marginal notes here. So this is, let's see, these are books, what did I say? These are books 2 and 3. So book 3 is the one is diseases arranged by the part of the body. And so I'm sort of curious if I have folio numbers are up here. So I'm going to go to 57. Let's see, 57 and see what we have. Lots of little notes here. And this one is much easier, less fraught for me to sort of page through the way I like to page through. And we've lost the frames. It looks like the frames are gone, and we just have the paper, which again is really nice paper. Oh, the reason, one of the reasons I wanted to show you the other one, but also this one to a lesser extent, is that we don't see paper in Western manuscripts that early. Like to see a manuscript from France dated to 1150 made of paper would be just so unusual. I can't imagine such a thing. Like a whole codex. We had paper in the West, early, but it was used for documents and things like that. Whereas in the Middle East and in the further east, it was really used much earlier, and very nice paper too. Okay, so here we have the end of book 2 and then the start of book 3. It looks like maybe there is a little header, but I wonder if there was room left here for some kind of decoration that never got put in. It's hard to say. Maybe not, because the margin is the same on both sides. And otherwise, this manuscript is not particularly decorated. Let's see. And then we go to book 4, which is another list of diseases. I actually want to see book 5, which is the compound drugs. Let's see, 329 recto. So here we go. And if you want to see more of 446, since I did put it away really quickly, it's digitized and you can go have a look. I said that. No, I'm going to go back and check and make sure I'm right. Yes, it's been digitized, so you can look at it and imagine me trying to turn all those pages and just getting more and more weird about it. Okay, let's see. 236. 230. Here we go. 230. Oh. 235. Here we go. So there's the end. I love the way these books end with a little triangle there. And then here is the beginning. And there's not even really a header here. There's some in the margin. Let's see. I guess I was hoping to see a list, something that looked like a list to my eyes, and I'm not seeing that. Shreve says the paper is firm and well polished. Yeah, this is really nice. So the polish is that paper that you see in Islamic manuscripts. There's a process that it goes through after the paper is made, where it's sort of rubbed with, I'm not sure what, like some kind of stone or something, but it makes it polished and shiny. And I hope you can sort of see a little bit how it is. It's not like the earlier one that we looked at was not polished. That was very soft, but like a lot of later paper that's used in the West is also not polished like this. It's got a really unique thing. And then Shreve is also pointing out, and the separate books begin with the Bismillah, that is in the name of God. So let's see if I can go back to 236. Let's see. 236. I actually took Shreve's Islamic manuscripts class, I don't know, 2 summers ago, a year and a half ago, and I feel like I learned just enough to be a little bit dangerous. So here's the Bismillah there. And I think I recognize it because it's got this sort of long part at the beginning, which is that's pretty neat. That this is how he's starting the chapters in a medical encyclopedia, and yet he's starting it with in the name of God, which is something that you see a lot in the West as well. Yeah, Shreve says neat and very standard for all such texts. Yeah. And she adds to what I said about the burnishing. Shreve says burnished with either a stone or a metal burnisher. So that's how they made the paper. All right. So this is. Very, very neat. I love these marginal notes because these don't look like they were written by the same person. So this looks like a text that different people were reading through and taking notes on and interacting with, which I think that's really neat. And even though this book is quite large, it's still only part of the whole canon, right? There's still that one book that is not included in this manuscript. So the whole thing would be quite large, and this is with very small writing. So it's a really impressive text, and it was translated into many languages. So let's take a look at our third manuscript, which is earlier than this one. So this is 16th century. Oh, and Shreve adds, sometimes the marginal notes are written upside down. So if you see an upside down marginal note, then you actually do see that. So that's a 16th century one. And then the third manuscript I want to look at is a translation into Latin that was made in England between 1250 and 1299. And it is partial. It's only 17 leaves. So it is a small bit of it. Let's see what it is. Sections from books 1 and 2. Translated into Latin in the 12th century by Gerardo de Cremona. So this is a copy of his translation, and it looks like it's probably one choir or maybe a couple of choirs, and could have been part of a larger book, maybe. I'm looking in the record to see. I don't know. So there's a lot going on here. So same text, translated into Latin, written in a Latin style, so it looks like a lot of manuscripts you look at. Sorry, let's see. Here we go. So it's in a paper, it's been bound in this paper thing much more recently, but it's on parchment, which you'd expect being in England in the 13th century. So we start Liber, let's see, Liber here. So this has lists. I'm so used to Western manuscripts. Here we have this is a table of contents, I see. So here we have a preface and the table of contents. And then we start book 1 here. And I'm looking at the folio numbering, because there is folio numbering up here at the top. I think that this is portions of things, because I'm not sure the table of contents is complete. Although I don't know. And we have numbers. We have 226, 227, 230. 233, 223, 238. So it looks like the table of contents is pointing to a much longer book. So maybe it would originally have been a translation, more complete translation originally. Amy has a note. She says 3 gatherings with some leaves missing even from those gatherings. Yeah, I think that there's something missing here. So, but the condition of this, I feel like, gives an indication of how much it was used. It doesn't have, it has some there's some marginal notes. Oh, I remember this. I've seen this before. This section that was replaced at some point, not too much later. So this is a parchment patch, and the text has been overwritten again, and then when we turn the page, there are patches all through for several ones, and they kind of get smaller. Like there was some kind of damage that happened here. Maybe someone burned it, and now we just have a little hole here. And eventually, I think there we go. So this little piece of manuscript was something that was being used and referred to, and important enough that when something happened to it, the text was patched and then rewritten over top of it, which is pretty interesting. That instead of just using it for scrap, it was put, sort of kept together. Yeah, here are some fun manuals. I haven't zoomed in at all. Let's zoom in a little bit so you can get a better look at that. So, as I say, people reading and responding to it, making their own notes, and that. Let's see. I'm curious about the numbers at the top. 1 and L. Is it all like that? I thought it was at 1. Oh. I don't know, because we have L1. Book 1. I'm guessing Book 1. Yeah, Amy says L equals Liber, so Liber 1. But then the record says it's portions of books 1 and 2, which makes me wonder, maybe it's here where we're L, because at some point that stops. So here's L1, and then maybe this is where we go to L2. There is no, this is caput 9, book 9. I'm also seeing numbers in the margin here that I don't see before. It's almost like it's pieces that have been, I don't know. They're a little bit different. These two sections are a little different. Karen, hi Karen. Karen says, the marginal diagrams, equivalent of outline headings, make me think that the manuscript is used in teaching. Oh. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, as I say, like, it was a very popular book for medical professionals at the time. So, intellectual medical professionals. So I'm sure that it could have been. It was used as a teaching text, and this copy surely could have been used as a teaching text. And it was used past the Middle Ages too, because here. I think these are Penn trials, but these are, I don't know, 17th century. Like this is later handwriting there, and someone has written their name upside down in the bottom margin, which they were not shy about writing in manuscripts. You shouldn't do that today, but. Did that. And because I can never say no to a good prick mark, I'm just going to zoom in so you can see the prick marks on the edge here. Come on. The prick marks, as you will know if you've ever heard me talk about them before, these are used to rule the page. So the way that the lines are able to be straight when the scribe is writing them is that they use these holes on the edges and then draw lines on the page, and then the scribe writes on them. Not Arabic manuscripts, however. They had a different method for making their lines straight. They would take a frame with string across the frame, with as much space between the strings as they wanted, the size they wanted their text to be, and then they would press the paper against the string, and that made an imprint. And so that's how Arabic manuscripts were done. Thank you, Shreve Simpson, for teaching me that. All right, it is 12:30. Thank you everyone for coming. This was fun. I always love being able to sort of compare manuscripts of the same text written in different places and translated in different languages, because it really shows how these texts got around. So thanks for joining me. Come back next week. We'll have another manuscript, and have a great week. Bye.